Hey guys, so today I'm going to make probably the most emotional video I have ever made. This video is not supposed to be like a sad story, even though I'm sure it will be. But my purpose for uploading this is going to be to have people learn from this, to be educated from this, to maybe see my story, and if you ever have to take somebody off of life support, what to expect. Personally, I think from what the doctor and nurse said, I had one of the worst case scenarios, and I will go through that very, very, very detailed, and it's just a disclaimer. I will give a background leading up to this about, I'm not sure the time, but I'm not going to edit this, so hopefully just a few minutes of my sister's story before she ended up in the hospital. And yeah, also I understand that these were my sister's choices that ultimately led her to her grave, but I want this to be something something positive. If the comments get kind of negative, I understand this is YouTube, I understand I put this out, but just, I mean, for the fear of my sister's children seeing this one day before I could ever explain, which I don't think that's going to happen, but just in case, I will, control those comments a little. But basically, thank you guys for watching this, and I'm just grab some food, grab something, because this is going to be a long one. But I have some notes. Also, a shout out to Erin Noel. I saw the video she did about her boyfriend passing away, and I thought that was incredibly brave, and you, gave me the strength or the inspiration to want to make this video. So my sister passed away in September of this year. I did not want to make the video ever, but I'm at a place where I think I can make that video for, positive reasons, and maybe turn this into something of a lesson. So a little recap of my sister. My sister's name was Brittany, and she was my best friend. Second to my actual, best friend Angel, but she was like, it was everything. She was 4 years older than me, and she was almost like an older brother, like a very protective person of me, and she was just so full of life, and it was always Brittany. Like, she was the best dancer when she danced. She did boxing, she was the best boxer. She was a straight A student, and she worked her butt off, but she was also very much like her way or the highway. She was gonna fight, and she was never gonna let anybody else win if she wanted to fight. So basically when I moved to California when I was in middle school, and my sister got pregnant, and she was living with my grandparents and ended up getting her own place. Basically, you screwed up, figure out your own life, and I think that was kind of one of the worst things to ever happen to my sister, and that's when our relationship kind of went like that. Basically, 2 kids later, she was prescribed a lot of oxycodone because the doctor sewed her up wrong when she had her first child, and he kept giving her more oxy because they were scared that my sister would sue, but my sister was naive enough not to speak up until a couple years later, and it was already too gone by then. So basically, eventually, oxycodone, 2 years later, she did so well. She grinded, she had a full-time job, she was in college, for being a teen mom, she was juggling it, and she was doing it. And I think that's really respectable, and I think that's something a lot of people should know. Just because you have your shit together now, if you could fall at any time, and anybody who looks like they're not hurting and who's doing it all, they're probably hurting the most. Or at one point hurt the most. So there is that. Also, my sister, very quickly, 1 baby turned into 2, which turned into 3, and when my sister had the second baby, she lost it. She got into heroin full blown, and that is... also, by the way, my sister did not die of an overdose, if that's what you think this is. It was something much worse, and I don't think a lot of people who do drugs think of that, what could happen. Anyway, my sister was a heroin addict, and she got pregnant for the 3rd time, and she decided to make the change. She went to rehab, and she ended up signing, the adoption for the other 2 were going to happen no matter what. And my sister accepted that and said, no matter what, I'm going to fight for the 3rd baby, I'm going to fight for visitation, I'm getting my life back. And she was only 23 or 22 at the time, turning 23. And which is crazy because that's the age I am at right now. And so anyway, this is 2014, I had a really awesome relationship with my sister. We damn near lived together again. I moved back to Seattle from California after a really bad thing that happened to me, and you know, we were just close. I went to NA meetings with her. She jumped through every hoop. She checked every box off. She was doing everything she was supposed to do. She was working through her trauma. She was doing everything. Like, you know, she was doing it. And basically, one day came and she was in court. This is what she had to do. She wasn't in trouble, but just to make sure she was doing everything she was supposed to be doing. And they said, okay, and today we're going to adopt your children out. What? She didn't realize that was the day that she agreed on to have her older 2 children adopted. And I'm not sure if anyone's ever had to give up their children or lose a family member through adoption or anything like that. But that killed my sister, because she really had in her heart that she was going to work really hard and have all of her children and live in this big, beautiful house and have a white picket fence, and that's what she was working towards, and that's what, you know, she had plans to go to college the next semester. Like, she was going to turn and show everybody, because she had already done that. And they said, no, like, you were going to sign your children away, and she, like, it kind of came back, and she kind of remembers that conversation, and she was just like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry, like, I was in rehab, you know, like, I was so scatterbrained when I was told that. I don't remember. Regardless, we love the lady who has her children, who eventually adopted, which soon will be all 4 of her children. So there's like no shade to that, but she still didn't know her kids were being adopted on the day of. Basically, she fell off the wagon again. She got sober. She got her own apartment, and this is now the 2015. And once again, she was showing everybody she could do it. She had visitation with her children, and she was doing really, really, really good. Until about that summer. And you know, what became a casual habit, again, just was a full-blown heroin addiction. And that went on for a few more years. She ended up having a 4th child in 2016, about 1 year ago. Almost this week, my niece is turning 1. And she had so much guilt. She knew she couldn't raise the baby. She knew she shouldn't, you know, have, you know, acted a way that would have endangered a baby's. It was just really bad, and I think a lot of people don't understand that a lot of drug addicts are hiding a lot of pain, and I understand they're drug addicts and they're doing something that's really, really bad, and they're hurting a lot of people. Trust me, I've been hurt. But let's take ourselves out of the equation. Let's focus on them. Imagine the pain, knowing that you have ruined 4 lives, and that's at least what she thought. And just so she fell off, and she was a full-blown heroin addict. And I really regret, because during that last 8 months of her life, up until the very end, I said, Brittany, I cannot be a part of your life, because I feel like if I show you love, I'm enabling you. I don't want you to think that I'm happy with what you're doing. I don't want you to think that this is okay, and I love your children so much that by me restricting my love, basically, or my attention, I didn't tell her that exactly. I said, you know, I love you, but you have to get sober, and I am not going to enable you. Everyone else can enable you, but understand I will not. And that's exactly what I did, which I look back and I don't know if that was the right decision. Basically, I'm just like thinking, because I'm going to share with you guys the last thing I told my sister, which I'm not really sad about. But basically, so the next like 4 months went on, and still no change. I had tried to reach out to her multiple times, but like most people on drugs, they don't have a phone number for X amount of time, different phones, different places, nobody can get a hold. I talked to her once here, once there, very, very hard. And I'm also leaving a lot of stuff out, just for time's sake. But, When last summer, so like June of 2017, I was on the phone with my mom, and my mom, because I talked to her like every hour, I was talking to her, and my mom goes, is that Brittany outside? And my sister, oh, I'm so sorry, let me recap, I'm so sorry. Basically, my sister was staying at my grandparents' house in June, and she flipped a switch. She went crazy. She thought my grandparents were clones. She didn't know what happened. She eventually told us that she was in a room with these people, and then nothing else happened, and we're like, was she raped? Was there trauma? Something that she blocked out and just kind of went crazy. Another important thing to know is my sister has been diagnosed bipolar for as long as we can remember, and so maybe this is just a result of mental illness, and doing drugs just was the cocktail. So that happened, and then so that happened, and we tried everything, and that's when I jumped back into the relationship with my sister, and we wrote letters to the governor of the state of Washington, which did not help. We asked for, we went to a couple doctors, we called the ambulance, and eventually they wouldn't even look at us. They said, sorry, she's crazy, like, get her in a mental ward. And then we'd go to the mental ward, and they wouldn't help her because she didn't sign any papers because it's voluntary. And we said, trust me, like, she's on drugs, but she's acting crazy, she's seeing things, she was going to police saying her children were dead, help her, and she really, really believed that. And that brings me so sad. Like, could you imagine believing all your children were dead and really believing it? Like, that's horrible. I was just, like, really, really upset because I was trying so hard, my mom was trying so hard, my mom's boyfriend was trying hard, my dad was trying hard. And one day my sister was like, hey, can I go to Dad's house? And we're like, maybe this is it. Maybe she just needs to be away. Maybe she's in like meth-induced psychosis. Another thing, my sister was a heroin addict, and when they did they like tested something on her, and they said she had meth in her system. But if you guys know anything about drugs, like, your drug is your drug. Like, you don't typically like switch within drugs. So it was just really, really weird. And we were like, well, maybe she just needs to sleep it off. My friend, she's in psychiatry school, and she was like, maybe she's just like tripping out, and she needs to like, really needs to like just sleep it off, which wasn't it. She goes to see my dad, and that did not work out because my sister was absolutely crazy, and my dad was really upset because it's like, that's his baby girl who's a street person at this point, and that was so hard. And once again I said, Brittany, I can't see you. And she said, I would really like to see you. And I said, Brittany, like, I can't see you while you're on drugs. And deep down inside, I still want to see my sister so screwed up. Like, that's it. I did not, and I'm so thankful I never really had to, except the very end. Anyway, flash forward to the end of August. I was on the phone with my mom, and this is the real, like, you can timestamp this. I don't have a timer. But basically, my mom was on the phone with me, and she goes, is that Brittany? Like, is that Brittany on our yard? And I was like, what? She goes, I have to call you back. And basically, how the story goes, without my, like, side interpretation, my sister's then boyfriend and family said that she looked really sick and dropped her off in our front yard with nowhere to go. And my sister was so sick she couldn't stand. My mom, quote, said she looks like a Holocaust patient. And they said, oh my God, and they thought she was maybe like overdosed. Or maybe she was just so weak. At first, that's what they thought it was. Like, maybe she was just so weak, from like not eating for a couple weeks or whatever, And so we called the doctor that was specialized, in like this type of thing. It was a couple hours away, and they said, oh, bring her in the morning. From like what it seems like, she's just really weak. Try to get food in her. Don't let her escape. Bring her in the morning. We'll help her. Well, my mom can't drive like that, like 3 hours to a mountain. So my aunt's like, I'll take her. And my mom was like, great. So like they like got my sister. While my sister was at my aunt's house in Seattle, she started throwing up blood. She stopped breathing. She was turning blue. Like, it was, the end. And so they rushed my sister to the ER, and like they said my sister could die any second. They hooked her up to every tube you can imagine, and my sister, in her crazy mind, thought they were trying to kill her. and they had like the tubes on her. They eventually edited the trach, and the next week my sister improved. They got the right fluids in her. They found that she had a virus, and they didn't know where it was. They could just say, okay, it's here, or it's here. And throughout the next 2 weeks, she got worse and worse and worse. However, her mental state got better. And this goes back to her being crazy. I forget the term, and I don't want to even look up the term because it's a weird term, but she ended up getting an infection that's related to IV drug use. And the infection had spread to her blood, her heart, her liver, her kidneys, her lungs, both, her mouth, I think part of her stomach, and most importantly her brain. Now, it wasn't crazy in her brain, but so the antibiotics cured her crazy because it was able to kind of get the infection down. Now, she had these things called abscesses or absents. I really don't know the term, but basically like little balls, and you can get them on your teeth if you have like really bad like cavity stuff. Well, and like 1 or 2 could kill you if they like break off like in your body, because it'd go through your blood into your heart. My sister had thousands of abscesses in her lungs, on her heart, on her brain, in her liver. Like, they'd have to do hundreds of surgeries to remove them. Basically, they were able to get the ones in the lungs by like the dozen. Eventually her lungs went from being black, like black mucus coming out, to green, to yellow, you know, to clear, which is awesome. And she was kind of in her mental state, but she couldn't breathe on her own. She couldn't eat, you know. And so she had all that going on, that's when I flew to Seattle. I was just like losing it. Like, oh my God, my sister's in the hospital. Like, she has all this stuff. And they said like she might get better, she might get better. And she kept getting weaker and weaker and weaker. I mean, when I mean weak, I mean like she couldn't write. She was drawing whiteboards, and like a sentence would take that out of her. She'd sleep all day. And this is getting kind of sad. So basically, she obviously didn't have her 4 kids. One was only 9 months old, and they asked to come, and we were still kind of close to those kids, and so we said, please come. And Brittany, my sister, said she'd want them. Well, I think they say that when you're gonna die, you know it before anyone else. And my sister opted, when the children got there, they drove 3 hours. They got out of school and everything, and they said, she said, I can't see them. And we're like, what do you mean, Brittany? And she said, like, no, I cannot see them. And we know it's because she knew she was gonna go. We didn't know at this point. And she said that she didn't want those kids to see her like that and have that memory of her. Or at least that's what she kind of said. We interpreted it as that. But that was heartbreaking, because I knew, like, looking at those kids and looking at my sister, like, wondering, like, is this going to be the last time, you know, they ever see each other? Because my sister, they had still told us she could die at any second. But we didn't tell Brittany that. But Brittany knew that. Like, we kind of told her that. And so that broke my heart full on. And the next day was her 26th birthday. And it's going to be hard. So before, the doctors used to bring us into like a room with one doctor, one nurse, and be like, hey, this is an update, it's not looking good. Or hey, this is an update, it's looking good. And my sister had was given a CAT scan, because for whatever reason the infection kept spreading, and no antibiotics, and she was on the highest amount of antibiotics and the highest amount of everything, and she was so uncomfortable in that bed. And but just like 3 days before that, she was able to stand up. They got her to stand up in bed, which is groundbreaking. Well, all the doctors came in. Like, when I mean all, I mean like 25 people came to this room on my sister's birthday without my sister there. Like, we were in a separate room. And they go, we have bad news. And they said that they all went around the table and said one thing that was incurable about my sister. And they said if my sister ever survived this, she would forever be on a respirator because she has no lung, like, inside of her lungs left. And I was like, you mean oxygen? Like, she's gonna have to have an oxygen tank? And they're like, no, a respirator to keep her pumping. Like, she can't pump. Well, you know, and basically the infection was very much in her blood. It was very much everywhere in her heart, and that 3 out of 4 of her heart chambers stopped working. And she had a pre-existing heart condition before, so that was scary. And so that was really hard, very sad. And we asked, like, what do we do? You know, is it? You know, and they go, well, we're not going to tell her on her birthday because we want her to have a good birthday. But they said basically, and like, the term they kept using is really, really sick. Like, what medical term are they using when they say that? Like, oh, we're really, really sick. Like, I was like frustrated with that because I was like, the classification she's at right now, that the level's really, really like. And they said basically enjoy the day, and so we did. She had a great day, and I asked her if she wanted to get an iPad, and she said with Bluetooth so she could watch stuff, and she just. It was hard because how are you looking at somebody and you know they're gonna die and you don't want to tell them? You know, like, how are you, like, I felt guilty for knowing that. And I thought my sister would have a few more weeks, but I had to go back to San Francisco where I live because I had already been there for a couple weeks. I had to leave, like, I was gonna lose my apartment, and it was selfish of me to leave, I think, but I thought my sister had a few more weeks, so I was like, I would come back like next week. I just need to go back. Like, I'm so exhausted from all this. And I'm going to share with you the last, like, true conversation I had with my sister. Because I think it's important for anyone who's struggling right now to hear this. And I think I wish I should have told my sister before she got to this point. And what I told my sister is, you know, I sat by her side and I had combed her hair. And I told my sister that I just want her to know, no matter what, I'll be successful to take care of her 4 kids, and that nobody is mad at her, because I think a lot of it is her feeling like they're mad at her. And so I told her that I'm not mad, and nobody's mad, and that she has to fight like she's never fought before. And at this point, we did not tell her what the doctors had told her, but I feel like she knew what was going to come. And she told me that, or she couldn't speak because she had the trach, but she gave me a hug and she rubbed my back and she said, you know, okay. And I said, but if you've given it your all and you know you can't give any more, I'm happy because I know you died trying. And I don't want you to die, and I don't think you're gonna die, but I don't want to lie. And that I loved her, and she needs to stay so strong, but if she can't stay strong, it's okay. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with her life, and, you know, I'm gonna make sure that it's seen in a good light. And, you know, her kids are gonna have positive stories, and I told her I'm gonna F up her boyfriend because I didn't like him, and, well, I mean, if you see my scratches. But anyway, so I had that conversation and I shared some other really cool things with her. And, yeah. And so, you know, we hugged and I had to leave because my flight was taking off. So I left, and I truly thought she would have a few more weeks in her, you know, deep down inside I was, you know, she's still going up and down, she's still doing all this, like, maybe she'll come back, you know, like, maybe, like, and basically when they did the test results, they found that she has pockets of fluid that can't be treated because, it can't be treated through antibiotics. The only way to treat it is if they go in and, like, cut you open and it drains out. And we just weirdly have pockets in us. Well, my sister had all of her liquid basically in her body was affected. Impossible to cure without surgery and multiple surgeries. And she just, she couldn't, just by the fact of, I didn't tell her about, like, when her kids were coming in, and she said no, like, they weren't coming in, but they were in the hospital, she said no. That fucked up her heart, screwed up her heart rate so bad that she was at risk for a heart attack. Like, it was that bad, where it's not like, we'll just bring the kids in, you know, and just let her deal with it. It could have killed her, you know, to, like, you know, do something she really didn't want to do. Anyway, so I flew back home to San Francisco, really, really destroyed. I feel a lot of guilt. Why do I get to live here? Why do I get to, quote, live my dream of living in San Francisco and do all these cool things and have all these cool dreams, and my sister has to be in a hospital bed dying? The next day they told my sister, and her condition actually had gotten worse from the next day. And my sister made the very brave decision, and very, very, I think, honorable, and regardless of your opinion on her, if you know her or not from this video, she said, I will take myself off life support. And she asked if I could be there, and they called me and told me, and I've never been more hurt. I lost it, like, completely. And so that same day I got on a flight. Well, technically it was the next morning. I didn't sleep, and it's weird knowing, looking at the sunrise and knowing that when it sets, somebody you love isn't going to be there, and that's just a really weird thing. So I flew to Seattle. It's a blur. And, you know, I got there and I was told, I mean, that her condition, she actually, through the night, had started getting cold feet, and she couldn't feel her feet or feel her hands anymore. Or at least all the time. Like, she could feel her hands sometimes. I know that because she would feel my hand, but like her, and that's basically from her heart stopping the circulation, basically meaning she's going to pass in any second. So me and my dad, my whole family got there, and we had that conversation, and this is really hard to talk about, but they had to bring my sister off all those medicines for she could legally give consent to take herself off life support. When she did that, she almost died because of the pain. Like, she just, you know, couldn't do it. So, of course, you know, for the next 24 hours, they had her up on everything. They wanted her to be really comfortable, which I'm thankful for. And the nurse, I totally forgot her name. I really want to write her a letter. But she was awesome. And, so we were all there, and, it was like 2 hours, and I finally got my seat next to my sister, and we had talked, and she was going in and out of consciousness, and I thought she was going to go unconscious and pass away, and that's not how it works. I was holding her hand, and they said, are you ready to start? And they asked her, well, before, she goes, I'm uncomfortable, and they, like, kept moving her, like, pillows around, and, they go, anything we can make you happy? And she goes, I want Coke. Coca-Cola. Yeah. And my mom was like, let's give it to her. Let's do it. Like, let's do it. And they gave her a sponge, and she chewed on it. Like, that's how they did it. And the nurse was totally fine with it. And she, which is awesome. And my sister was like, this tastes like hell. She was a Pepsi girl. And so that happens, and she goes, anything else we can get for you, Brittany? And she goes, she had the feeding tube through her nose. She goes, I want this gone. And the nurse was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And they pulled it out, and it was nasty. I'll never forget. It was like that long in her, because, oh. But, there was a lot of pain for my sister, of course. And, she had to, She goes, okay, and they're like, anything else, Brittany? And they kept getting her basically higher, you know, giving her more, like, all that crap and to make her feel good. And she goes, can I have yogurt? Or she goes, yogurt, you know, she can't speak. And, this, okay, sorry. My camera stopped of all times. Basically they go, do you want yogurt? Or she goes, yogurt, and they're like, we can't give you yogurt. And she's like, why? What am I supposed to eat? And they go, well, if you ate, because you have that trach in you, it dropped down to your lungs. And she's like, oh. And even though I know she gave complete consent, I don't think she understood in that moment she was about ready to be taken off of life support. And the next minute of the story time is the hardest moment of my life, so please understand and be respectful if you've made it this far. They took, I said okay, and she kind of faded off, and I was holding her hand, and I kept going like this, and she'd clench it back, and but very briefly, you know, just and they took off her, she had the trach, but they took that part off, and then they put, like, what a gas mask would be, they put it right here, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, why can't you just kind of give her off? Like, now it's like she's gasping. Like, that's kind of, like, that seemed right to me. And, they unhooked her and they took off all the machines. And, the nurse was so awesome. She just kept, like, looking up and just pretending like she wasn't witnessing us, because that was kind of what we deserved, I think. And then she, like, hugged us and she said we were awesome. But, slowly my sister would go in and out of consciousness, and, you know, she just kind of look around and fall back asleep, and we thought maybe that's it, you know. Well, I kept doing the hand thing to my sister, and eventually it stopped. But the scariest part is my sister jolted back awake, and this happens a lot, so I learned it's your last spurt of life, and it's basically your body's last defense mechanism to, you know, live. And she goes, no, and she cried, and she looked at me and said no, and she looked at all of us and said no, no, no. And she looked at all of us, and she leaned back, and I still wasn't able to do one clench, and she clenched one more time. And at this point, I'm not crying, because I did not want her to think this was a bad thing or a scary thing, because, I mean, it's fucking scary. I don't want her to think it's scary. I wanted to be, like, you know, the good person, and, I kept saying, it's okay, Brittany, just relax, it's okay, you're okay, we're here. And, I think another really, really hard part of all this was, I don't think a lot of people realize, I didn't just see my sister die. When I had a look around the room, I could never get the face out of my mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa, aunts, uncles, everybody, who, like, I love, in the worst pain of their life. Like, their faces are so indented in my mind that it's like, I can't live with that. And so, anyway, I go, and I look back, and I see my sister, and she just kind of, I see her, and she starts to gasp, because she's not having any oxygen, and I think that's just a body thing. She was gasping really loud for like 20 like gasps, and I remember the second that her lips went chapped, and then they went blue, and then her hand got colder, and I knew, and I refused to let go of the nurse. I said, is she gone? But I didn't want to say it because I know, like, just because, like, your body might be dead, like, your brain still works. And, you know, like, I didn't know. I don't know science. Like, I didn't complete college. And so I said, you know, I was like, is she gone? And, the nurse came around without, like, leaving my hand. She, like, you know, looked at the clock and she said, yes, she is. And the nurse cried. And I lost it again, and I didn't do anything, and my sister's then boyfriend kissed her basically goodbye and put her hand on her chest, and I could not do that, and so I kept holding on, doing the clinch, and she didn't clinch back, and so eventually, you know, people left the room because they couldn't take it, and I kissed my sister on the head, and I said, I love you so much. And I'm gonna keep all my promises, but you have to keep all yours. And I kissed her goodbye. And, yeah, that's basically it. Sorry, I need like a second. Let me like... So yeah, that's my story time. I'm sorry it took like forever to get to the end. I'll put a little timer, I'm sure, into it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And this channel is supposed to be such a positive, funny. Like I write so many funny videos, like, and I don't know why, but I don't know, like, I don't know what to post. Like, I know, like, I want to post funny stuff. I write them out, but then I try to do them, and I'm like, nobody would watch that. But then I do a story time, and I start crying. So I'm like, just hold on with me, guys. Or not, whatever you need to do. I understand. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope this is an educational, and I really hope this helps somebody to at least expect, or, you know, like, I'm always there. I have, like, yeah, like, if you get me on Snapchat, like, I live on Snapchat, so just, like, message. But, yeah, thank you guys for watching, and, hopefully the next video will be funny, and I'll be happy, and not crying on my floor, sorry to order a damn pizza. Okay, bye, guys.